everyone. In this presentation, you will be learning about a technology that has already started to revolutionize so many things in the same manner that the internet has revolutionized the way we do things and the way we interact with each other. You will be learning about the blockchain technology. We will explain what blockchain is and how it works. We'll also give you a brief history of blockchain and we'll explain the advantages and disadvantages of this technology and of course discuss the different applications of the blockchain technology so that finally you could understand why our presentation is entitled Blockchain the Next Everything. But before that, let's have a little warm up question. You've already probably heard of blockchain before, but if not, it's okay. You can just make a guess. What do you think blockchain is? Is it A, referred to as a digital ledger? Or is it B, a time-stamped series of immutable records of data that is managed by a cluster of computers not owned by any single entity? Or is it C, a system of recording information in a way that makes it difficult or impossible to change, hack, or cheat the system? Or could it be D, all of the above? Share your answer in the comment section or send message box. Now let's find out the answer to that question. The easiest way to understand blockchain is to understand what its two root words stands for. The first root word is block and the second is chain. Blockchain stores information in batches called blocks. Then, these blocks are linked together in a chronological manner to form a chain. If you make a change to the information in a particular block, halimbawa, sa second block, we want to change some information contained in that specific block. Hindi natin i-rewrite yan. Okay? It would remain as is. What would happen is that we will create a new block at doon natin i-store yung change. And then, syempre, ililink natin siya doon sa naunang chain. Now, along with that change is a timestamp. Okay, recorded along the change is the timestamp or the particular date and time kung kailan nangyari yung change. If this sounds familiar to you, this is probably because blockchain is based on the method of what we call financial ledger, the general or traditional financial ledger. A financial ledger is a non destructive way to track data changes over time. And blockchain works in the same manner. And that is why it is also referred to as digital ledger or electronic ledger if you want. Ang blockchain ay isang public electronic ledger na binuo around a peer-to-peer system. Ibig sabihin, it can be shared, openly shared, okay? Everyone is free to join the network. And among that network, okay, the users can share records of transaction. Okay? And lahat ng record na to or bawat isang record of transaction na to ay timestamp and linked to the previous one as I have already explained in the previous slide. Every time a set of transaction is added, yung data na yon, as I've said again kanina, becomes another block in the chain. At yun yung bumubuo ng chain. Kaya tayo nagkakaroon ng chain kasi nadadagdagan kada may bago, kada may new transaction, or even changes dun sa nauna na. Okay? Laging meron tayong i-add na panibagong block at ililink yun. Okay? Doon sa chain. Kaya nga siya tinawag na blockchain. Sabi, etong tinatawag nating distributed ledger technology has the potential to eliminate huge amounts of record keeping, save money, streamline supply chains, and disrupt IT in ways not seen since the internet arrived. So, nabanggit ko na rin to in, I think, my first slide, in the first part of this presentation. Blockchain has already started to revolutionize so many things and it will continue to do so. Okay, makikita nyo later on siguro as I explain the applications of blockchain, you will further understand why we say that blockchain is a disruptive technology. Again, blockchain is based on a peer-to-peer topology. It's what we call distributed ledger technology. And since distributed nga siya, okay, hindi nakacentralize sa iisang server lang or sa iisang organization lang, sa iisang company lang, sa iisang lugar lang yung data. Okay? It's actually stored globally on thousands of servers. And like I said, anyone, everyone is free to join the network. And because of that, that actually what makes it difficult for one user to gain control of the network. Okay? Kasi nga maraming may control. Walang isa lang na parang may monopoly sa control nito. In simpler words, a digital ledger is like a Google spreadsheet shared among numerous computers in a network, in which the transactional records are stored based on actual purchases. Now, the fascinating thing here is that since open nga siya, diba? It's a peer-to-peer network where anybody and everybody is welcome to join, and they share the same data, the same series of blocks, the same blockchain. All of them can see the data, but they cannot corrupt that data. Okay? They cannot tamper with it. The result is that the integrity of the data remains intact, even though everyone can see. How fascinating, right? In the simplest of terms, blockchain is a time-stamped series of immutable records of data that is managed by a cluster of computers not owned by any single entity. This is actually the summary of what I have already been talking about kanina. Okay? So, sabi nga natin, it's time-stamped series of immutable records of data. Timestamp kasi bawat block, 'di ba? Nasabi na natin kanina 'yan. Bawat block meron tayong nilalagay na timestamp or exact record of the date and time kung kailan nangyari yung change or yung transaction. And then we call these records of data immutable kasi nga kahit may change tayong i-record, kahit kailangan talaga natin baguhin yun, yung actual block, okay, and all the information contained in that will not change. Hindi na mababago yon. We do not overwrite it kasi. Diba? So, it remains as is, that block at least, And then yung changes is nire-record lang natin by creating another block. And distributed nga to, distributed ledger. So, it's not owned by any single company or organization lang. It's peer, the network is owned by peers. Okay? Ikaw, if you want to be a part of blockchain, di ba? Pwede. You can own blockchains, di ba, with other people. And each of these blocks of data is secured. We want to emphasize that secured and bound to each other using cryptographic principles. I will be explaining this in more details maya-maya lang. Okay? Actually, susunod na ata siya. Yes. So, eto na nga tayo sa explanation of how blockchain works. Actually, we have already seen, di ba? Or we already have a general idea of what blockchain is. And therefore, kung tutusin, meron na rin tayong general idea din paano nag-work tong blockchain na to. But para magkaroon lang tayo ng deeper understanding, let's have a closer look at blocks. Each block contains a set of transactional data, its own hash, and another hash. Pero itong hash naman na to is the hash of the previous block. Okay? Now, you might ask, ano yung hash? What is hash? So, you can think of a hash as a fingerprint. Okay? So, ano ba yung fingerprint? Or ano ba yung purpose ng fingerprint? Why do we take a fingerprints? Diba, we use this for identification. Kasi nga, fingerprints are unique. Walang dalawa or higit pang tao that has the exact same fingerprint. And that is the same with blocks. Okay? All of them has hash, but there will never be a time that two or more of them will have the same hash. Okay? So, the hash serves as the identifier of each block. And as I've said a while ago, aside from its own hash, each block also contains the hash of the previous block. Okay? And that technique is actually what makes a blockchain secure. Or at least one way that makes blockchains secure. How? Kasi, ganito yan eh. Once a block is created, kina-calculate yung hash niya. Okay? So, meron na siyang hash, which is unique. But the thing is, kapag may binago tayo dun sa block na yon, kahit gaano kaliit na change yon, okay? Mag-create yon ng bagong hash. Mababago yung hash. Remember, hash serves as identifiers, unique identifiers of block. So, kung ang dalawang block ay may magkaibang hash, that means magkaibang block sila. Okay? So, yung hash mo dati, kung nabago, ibig sabihin, ibang block na yon. Okay? So, idagdag mo yon yung characteristics ng calculation ng hash dun sa pag-i-store mo nung hash nung previous, dun na natin makikita how the security of using hash in blockchains work. Okay, so let's look at that. So here we have 3 blocks. Okay, as I've already mentioned, each block, aside from the transactional data it holds, would also hold its own unique hash and the hash of its previous block. But if you will look at the first block, you will notice that it doesn't have a value for the previous hash, because this block is actually a special kind of block. Okay, this is the first block in the chain, so natural it doesn't have a previous block. Wala nang nauuna sa kanya. So talagang wala na tayong value na may ilalagay for this, for the previous hash. Okay? Etong block na to, yung nauuna, this is actually what we call the Genesis block. Okay? Now let's move on to the second block. Again, it has a hash, and aside from that, it also has, now it has the um, reference or the hash of the previous block. As you can see, it should be the same. Same with the third. Okay? The value in the previous hash should match the value of the hash of its previous block. Okay? And that goes on until the last block in the chain. Now, what would happen? Let's see what would happen if, for example, itatamper natin yung isang block. For example, itong second block. Para makita natin saan pumapasok yung sinasabi kong uh, purpose ng hash and previous hash, kung bakit nasabing it's one way of providing security dun sa blockchain. Okay, again, let's assume na itatamper natin itong second block. Tamper means babaguhin natin yung data. Okay? Pag binago natin yung data, kagaya ng nasabi ko nga kanina, mapapalitan yung ating hash. So, hindi na ito yung hash niyan. It would now produce a different hash, or whatever hash that is. Now, what's the problem in this scenario? If you will observe, di ba, parang may mali na. There is already an anomaly. Kasi if you will look at the value of the previous hash in the third block, hindi na siya ngayon nagmamatch doon sa bagong hash nung kanyang previous block. So, this is an anomaly, this is wrong, okay? So, that means, ang mangyayari pala dito is, it would actually invalidate all the remaining blocks in the chain. Ito lang yung tinamper mo, yung second lang, 'di ba? May binago ka lang konti, it would invalidate all the remaining blocks in the chain. Kahit ilan pa 'yan. Kasi nga hindi na tama eh. Okay? Ito lang ang namali. Kahit yung mga susunod na blocks, tama pa rin naman yung previous hash nila. Kung meron kayong break dito sa chain nyo, wala na yan. Okay? The whole blockchain is invalidated. So, doon pumapasok yung security na pinoprovide ng hash and previous hash. Now, using hash is not the only thing that makes blockchain secure. Kaya nga, I don't know if you've been noticing na when I say paraan siya to secure, hindi ko sinasabing siya lang yung paraan. I am always parang mindful to say isa sa mga paraan yung hash to secure the blockchain. So, another parang mechanism that blockchain uses to secure its data is what we call proof of work. Okay? Ang ginagawa lang ng proof of work is simply ini-slow down niya lang yung creation ng mga bagong blocks. So, kung again, balik tayo dun sa example natin kanina. For example, we would be tampering with the second block. Aside from mababago yung hash niya, okay, bago tuluyang kumbaga i-accept or ma-finalize yung change nyo dito sa block na to, kailangan muna daw i-provide yung proof of work para dito sa susunod na block. Proof of work is simply a calculation that you need to do para ma-validate mo yung susunod na block. Okay? So, mag-compute ka ulit para ma-provide mo yung proof of work para dito sa susunod na block. Okay lang kung yung tatlong block na yan lang talaga ang blocks mo sa blockchain, di ba? But what if you have 100 blocks? Diba? 200 blocks in your chain. May binago ka dito sa pangalawa, so Gagawin mo rin yung proof of work para sa pangatlo, pang-apat, pang-lima, pang-anim, pang-pito, pang-walo, and so on. Hanggang sa end ng iyong chain. Okay? So, yun yung tinatawag na proof of work. Every time that you will be changing or you will be attempting to change in a block, okay, something in a specific block, you will have to perform or provide a proof of work for each and every remaining blocks in the chain. Okay? So, it still doesn't make tampering impossible, but it would make it really, really, really hard or difficult. 'Di ba? Kasi aside from difficult, matagal din. Super tagal. Okay? So again, that is another mechanism that blockchain uses for security. Again, it's called proof of work. Another thing that makes blockchain secure is what we call decentralization. As we've already said a while ago, blockchain is not centralized in a single server and not owned by a single entity, okay, or single authority. It exists in a peer-to-peer network. So, instead of a single central entity to manage the chain, blockchains use a peer-to-peer network and anyone is allowed to join. Now, each node or yung parang user, we can call them nodes, each node in the network gets a full copy of the blockchain. Now, when someone creates a new block, kailan tayo ulit nagkakaroon ng new block? Every time we change something or we perform a new transaction. So, when someone creates a new block, that block is sent to all nodes. Okay? Sa lahat po. Hindi lang sa isa, hindi lang dun sa side kung sino yung gumawa ng transaction or sino yung gumawa ng change. It will be sent to all nodes. Okay? And then, bawat node ngayon na yan, i-verify nila. Okay? Na i-verify nila yung change, i-verify nila yung transaction, and kung okay lahat, wala silang nakitang anomaly or anything suspicious, walang problem, okay, it will be accepted. Ang mangyayari niyan, the block will be added again to all nodes. Okay? So, lagi, all the time, all nodes have the exact same copy of the chain. Okay? So, ang nangyayari ngayon, bago mangyari yung change, okay, kailangan meron munang consensus between all the nodes. Kasi nga 'di ba, lahat ng node nagve-verify nung changes na nangyayari, nung mga bagong transactions. Kahit pa halimbawa na verify siya ng isa, 'di ba? Or kahit pa na verify siya ng majority, kahit meron lang isa na parang may mali, 'di ba? May nakitang mali, may na-encounter na problem dun sa changes na ini-introduce or dun sa bagong block na dinadagdag, it will not be accepted. The block will not be added as a part of the chain. Now, medyo I don't know, baka medyo na-overwhelm kayo sa dami ng mga technical terms na ginamit natin kanina, especially kung bago lahat ng mga terms na yun sa inyo. So, siguro to help you um, understand blockchain ng mas madali, let's look at an example na baka mas makarelate kayo. Okay? This is not the exact talaga ha, the exact parang scenario, an exact scenario wherein we use blockchain or Bitcoin. Pero it's a model. Okay? Para lang mas simplify yung explanation on how blockchain and more specifically Bitcoin work. So, imagine daw a paper binder. Kunwari, yung blockchain is a paper binder. Okay? You know what a paper binder is. Anong purpose niya, di ba? Meron tayong separate pieces of paper. Kinokolekta natin yan. and nilalagay natin in just one single paper binder. Okay? So, yun daw kunwari yung blockchain natin. Now, imagine that sa klase natin, for example, si Silvio. Silvio wants to send 10 units to Arthur. Okay? Isang transaction yon na gusto niya sanang gawin. Hindi agad mangyayari yon. Okay? Papasok yun sa queue or sa pila, sa hilera ng mga lahat ng iba pang transaction na gustong gawin. Okay? Ng lahat ng nodes or lahat ng users na nag-own ng blockchain na yon. Now, yung transaction na yon, as I've said, hindi pa agad mangyayari yon. Meron kunwari pang isang estudyante. Let's think of it as parang isang estudyante na kukuha dun sa specific transaction na yon at mag-verify muna or i-confirm niya muna na meron talagang 10 units si Silvio. Baka kasi 'di ba gusto mag-send ni Silvio ng 10 units pero 3 units na lang pala yung natitira sa yung balance niya, 'di ba? Sa account niya. So, i-confirm muna na indeed meron pang 10 units or more si Silvio. And then kung meron, kukunin yon ni student sa account ni Silvio at ipapasa kay Arthur. Okay, ipapasa sa account ni Arthur. Next, syempre kailangan may record, di ba? Lahat ng transaction natin, ledger nga to eh. So, yung transaction na nangyari yun, yung changing or transfer nung units, should be recorded. Okay? Saan ire-record yon? Ire-record niya yon sa paper binder. Okay? Idadagdag niya yon. Yung isang record nung transaction would be added to the paper binder. Okay? Kapag nabuo niya na daw yung kapag na-fill upan niya na daw nung student yung buong papel, okay, na-fill upan niya na ng lahat ng transactions, na puno na yung paper, kailangan niyang mag-solve ng mathematical problem. Okay? Parang ito na yung parang ito na yung proof of work natin. Okay? At ito na rin yung lahat ng mechanism actually na diniscuss natin kanina. Yun na yun. Yun yung mga i-compute or i-calculate dito. Okay? Para ma-verify na tama, okay lahat nung ni-record na transactions. Ngayon, si teacher naman, okay, papasok si teacher dito, i-validate niya yung proof of work nyong yon or yung lahat ng computations nyo na ginawa. Okay? And then, kapag okay na-solve na yung problem, na-compute na yung dapat i-compute at tama naman, diba? Okay siya. So, the student daw wins a prize and a new paper is added to the binder. Imagine that paper as the block, a new block na pwede nyong i-insert doon sa binder, which nasabi nga natin kanina, parang stands for the chain, the blockchain. Okay? Now, since okay na, diba? Okay na yung transaction, na-record na siya, na-verify na rin, diba? Na-validate na ng lahat ng kailangang mag-validate. Si Arthur ngayon, makukuha niya na yung kanyang 10 additional units, diba? Yung ipinasa sa kanya. Updated na yung balance niya, and hindi doon natatapos, diba? Hindi lang yung kay Arthur yung maa-update. So, lahat din ng binder nung students, both students and ng teachers, actually lahat ng may-ari or involved dun sa binder na yon. Okay, lahat ng binders nila, lahat ng copies nila would also be updated. Okay? So, yun. Pansinin nyo, parang isang simpleng transaction lang. Pero, ang haba, ang daing nangyari. Okay? So, though you might think of it as a disadvantage, uulitin ko yung sinabi ko kanina, this is actually what makes blockchain secure. Okay? Ang hirap dayain, di ba? Kasi ilan yung pinagdaanan niya. Verify na nga kanina, kinonfirm na ni student, hindi pa natapos doon, di ba? Nag-perform pa ng mathematical computations, calculations, binerify pa ulit ng teachers, plural, di ba? Hindi lang isa parate yung nagve-verify. And then sa update, okay na, na-verify na, pero sa update, hindi pa rin enough na na-update lang sa isang lugar. Kailangan lahat nung copies, nung binder na yon, 'di ba, are updated. Dapat same sila parate ng copy. So, mahirap talagang dayain or i-tamper yung mga data na nasa blockchain natin. Okay? So, I hope that made it easier for you to understand what blockchain is. So, next, let's discuss Next, let's discuss a brief history lang of blockchain. Blockchain is actually the brainchild of Satoshi Nakamoto. But here's the deal. We don't really know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Okay? It's actually a mystery. In fact, we don't even know if Satoshi Nakamoto is only one individual or a group of person. Okay? Ito kasing Satoshi Nakamoto na to is a pseudonym. Okay? Again, this is not an actual person. Well, of course, there's an actual person behind blockchain, of course. But we do not know who exactly it is. Okay? Kasi nga, they hid under the pseudonym of Satoshi Nakamoto. Okay? They could be one person only or a group of person, but yeah, blockchain is their brainchild. Pero even before Satoshi Nakamoto parang coined the term blockchain or before Bitcoin came up, okay, yung concept ng blockchain has already been around, okay, before pa eto si Satoshi Nakamoto. So let's look at that. Noong 1982 pa lang. Okay, 1982, unang prinopose yung protocol na similar to blockchain. Ang nag-propose nito is a cryptographer named David Com, and he proposed this in his dissertation entitled Computer Systems Established, Maintained, and Trusted by Mutually Suspicious Groups. Okay? This, hindi pa blockchain yung tawag dito, but if you look at the protocol, it's similar to blockchain. And then, dinevelop pa yan, further work was done sa chain of blocks din. Okay, similar yung concept na similar din sa chain block. And that was described in 1991 by Stuart Haber and Scott Stornetta. So they wanted rather, hindi pa talaga nakapag-implement. They wanted to implement a system where document timestamps could not be tampered with. Okay? Next, noong 1992, si Haber ulit, Stornetta, and Dave Bayer incorporated Merkle trees to the design. So, etong incorporation na to actually improved the efficiency nung model nila or nung design nila by allowing several document certificates to be collected onto one block. Okay? And finally, medyo malayo ang parang distansya or pagitan, 2008 na. Nung unang na-conceptualize talaga yung blockchain as we know it now or as close as we know it now. And as I've said, ang person or persons behind that nga is Satoshi Nakamoto. And Nakamoto improved the design in an important way using a Hashcash-like method to timestamp blocks without requiring them to be signed by a trusted party. Okay? And then, inintroduce yung mga difficulty parameter para mas stabilize yung rate, 'di ba? Parang related to sa ano eh, sa proof of work natin na diniscuss natin kanina para mas stabilize yung rate nung pag-a-add nung mga bagong blocks. Okay? Kasi the slower it is, 'di ba? Parang the harder it is to tamper with the blockchain. Next, nung 2009 pa rin, or the following year, inimplement na talaga yung design. Okay? Kasi nung mga previews, yung mga unang taon, yung mga diniscuss natin, those are just designs. Okay? Those are just parang protocols pa. They're not implemented yet. Pero nung 2009 or the following year, na-implement na talaga ni Nakamoto yung core component ng cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. Okay? So, ito yung nagsilbing public ledger for all transactions on the network. So, marami na ngayong cryptocurrency, pero ang pinaka parang popular pa rin is Bitcoin. And that's for a reason. Kasi siya nga yung unang-unang implementation. Okay? Actual implementation nung blockchain. August 2004, so nadagdagan daw or lumaki yung Bitcoin blockchain file size. Okay? Nakaabot na ng 20 gigabytes yung total ng lahat ng records or transactions na pwede nating parang i-store sa isang blockchain. And then, noong January 2015 naman, lalo pa siyang lumaki, umabot na rin ng 30 gigabytes. 2016, 2016, eto pa lang yung ginamit talaga yung term na blockchain. Dati nababanggit na yung block, yung terms na block, and yung term na chain. But they are parang used as two separate terms. Pero 2016, eto daw yung talagang time na ginamit na siya as a single word or term, blockchain. 2016 din, according to Accenture, an application of the diffusion of innovations theory suggests that blockchains attained a 13.5% adoption rate within financial services in 2016, therefore reaching the early adopters phase. Okay, 13.5% is actually a big rate na. Okay, it means, yun nga, kaya nga daw na-reach niya na yung early adopters phase eh. Okay, it's already enough para ma-reach niya yung phase na yan. And yung mga industry trade groups, nagbuo na sila ng Global Blockchain Forum noong 2016. Okay? January 2016 and in between January 2016 to 2017, lalo pa talagang lumaki yung Bitcoin blockchain size. Okay? From 50 gigabytes, lumaki na ng 100 gigabytes. And then, nung 2018 naman, Gartner daw found out that only 1% of CIOs indicated any kind of blockchain adoption within their organizations. And only 8% of CIOs were in the short-term planning or looking at active experimentation with blockchain. Finally, nung early 2020, lalo pa talaga siyang lumaki. Actually, yun na yung trend at hindi na magbabago yun. Parang ganun talaga yung normal progression. Okay? Palaki ng palaki yung size. So, early 2020 umabot or lumagpas na siya rather ng 200 gigabytes. Still with us? Before we continue, let's once again have another very short break or warm up for the next topic. So, in your screen right now is a set of jumbled letters. Can you come up with a word using only these letters? I know you can do it. Of course, this word is related to what we've been discussing now. If you already know the answer, share your answer in the comment section or chat box. Ready for the answer? So, the answer is decentralization. Again, decentralization is the transfer of control of an activity or organization to several local offices or authorities rather than one single one. As we've said a while ago, blockchain, this specific digital ledger is distributed and decentralized. Okay? Hindi lang iisang entity or authority yung nagmamay-ari nito at hindi lang din siya located sa iisang location. It's distributed into different servers all over the world and owned by multiple individuals or group of individuals. Now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of blockchain. First advantage is the accuracy of the chain. We have already stressed this. We have already uh, repeated this several times already. There are so many mechanisms, there are several mechanisms that blockchain uses to ensure the accuracy of the chain. Okay? Lahat ng transactions sa blockchain network should be approved by all. Okay? All nodes. And this could literally be thousands of computers or nodes. So, this removes almost all human involvement in the verification process, resulting in less human error and an accurate record of information. Next, another advantage is cost reductions. Kasi, typically, kailangan pang magbayad ng mga consumers ng what do we call this? Mga transaction fee. Okay? 'Di ba? Halimbawa, magta-transfer sila ng pera, um, bibili sila. Kadalasan meron pang mga additional fees, transaction fees yung mga 'yan. Kailangan pa ng notary minsan, 'di ba? To sign a document. To kailangan pa ng minister to perform a marriage or in any other transactions pa, may mga additional pang kailangang bayaran. But blockchain eliminates the need for third-party verification. And with it, syempre, kasama din na nababawasan or nawawala na is yung cost na associated with each third-party verification. Okay? So, the end result, of course, is reduced cost. Decentralization, eto na po yung ating jumbled word, di ba? Ang answer sa ating jumbled word. So again, blockchain does not store any of its information in only a single central location. Okay? Nakakalat yan. A copy of that data or information is shared and spread among all the nodes in the peer-to-peer network. And kada nga may bagong block, lahat din ng nodes, okay, lahat ng blockchain dun sa network ay naa-update. Efficient transaction. So, blockchain does not store any of its information in a central location. We have already established this again and again. So, uh, mas nagiging efficient, okay, yung ating mga transaction. Private transaction. So, although many blockchain networks operate as public databases, ibig sabihin, anyone with an internet connection can view the list of networks transaction history. Hindi naman ibig sabihin nun na parang wala ng privacy or totally public na lahat-lahat, literally lahat talaga. Okay? Kasi, although users can access details about the transactions, they cannot access yung identifying information about the users. Okay? Dun sa users na involved dun sa mga transactions na yun. Secure? Of course, magiging secure talaga yung mga transactions natin dito. Kasi, once a transaction is recorded, hindi lang siya simpleng naka-record, 'di ba? Vini-verify din siya. At hindi lang isa ang magve-verify sa kanya. Na-establish na rin natin kanina 'yan, 'di ba? Lahat ng nodes dun sa network nyo, i-verify 'yun at i-confirm na tama yung transaction or walang problema doon sa transaction. Next, transparency. So, of course, transparent siya kasi nga sinabi natin kanina, it's public, 'di ba? It's open. It's open to everyone. So, anyone and everyone aside from can see the transactions, and not only that, not only the transactions, anyone and everyone can also view its code kasi most blockchains are open source. Next, banking the unbanked. Okay? Ah, sabi nila, okay, marami nagsasabi, probably the parang biggest or pinaka-impactful, 'di ba? Pinakamalaking impact ng ah, blockchain is empowering yung mas maraming tao eh. Empowering in the terms of giving them the opportunity to have access to banking and finance, 'di ba? When normally they wouldn't. So, ngayon kasi 'di ba, aminin naman na natin, kahit sa panahon ngayon, it's already 2020 pero marami pa rin ang walang bank account, 'di ba? And yung iba meron pero may mga difficulties na-encounter in terms of banking. And hindi rin lahat na ma-maximize talaga yung lahat ng feature na na-offered ng mga modern banking or finance institutions. Now, with the rise of blockchain, kahit sino na ngayon, okay, regardless of ethnicity, babae ka man, lalaki, 'di ba? Ano pang saang lupalop ka man ng mundo nang galing, you can have access to blockchain. Kaya nga sabi nila, it's one of the greatest impact and advantage of blockchain. Pero of course, just like with everything else, aside from advantages, there are also disadvantages of blockchain. So, let's start with technology cost. Yes, blockchain can save users money on transaction fees, 'di ba? Kasi nga sabi natin, there is a reduced need for third-party verification, so reduced cost 'yon. Pero Okay? Of course, the technology is not free. Diba? Kailangan pa rin ng uh, napakalaking computational power niyan. Kasi nga, ang daming calculations, 'di ba? Computations na kailangan dahil dun sa tinatawag nating proof of work. Okay? So kailangan pa rin talaga ng cost for the technology. And then second disadvantage is speed and efficiency. Uh, balik ulit tayo dun sa proof of work. Sabi nga natin kasi a proof of work is a way of slowing down, 'di ba? Pagpabagal nung pag-add nung bagong block dun sa chain natin. And though it is a really good way of ensuring security, well, dun pa lang sa salitang pinapabagal niya nga eh, 'di ba? So it's still considered a disadvantage. Okay? Halimbawa sa Bitcoin, ang proof of work daw ng Bitcoin takes about 10 minutes para ma-add lang yung isang block. 'Di ba? So, ibig sabihin may isang transaction kang ginawa, hindi agad-agad yun mag-a-appear or mare-record sa network nyo. You have to wait 10 minutes para matapos yung proof of work. Okay? So, medyo mabagal talaga. So that is one disadvantage. Another disadvantage is illegal activity. So, of course, while confidentiality on the blockchain network protects users from hacks and preserves privacy, it also allows for illegal trading and activity on the blockchain network. Actually, in my opinion lang naman na, if there is one thing that could be considered as the parang greatest disadvantage of blockchain, this could probably be it. Okay? In my opinion lang naman yon. I know some people who have heard of blockchains or bitcoins or other cryptocurrency but doesn't want to have anything to do with blockchain or Bitcoin. Simply because pag narinig nila yung mga terms na yon, ang unang pumapasok sa isip nila ay scam or something illegal. Okay? Parang nagkaroon na ng ganong dating, 'di ba? Parang ganon na yung nagiging association ng Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency sa mga tao. At least here in the Philippines. I'm not really sure sa ibang bansa. Pero if I'm not mistaken, ganun din sa kanila kasi I've read of several articles reporting nga tungkol sa mga scams or other illegal activities, trading activities na ang gamit ay Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency. So, yeah, gano'n naman talaga, 'di ba? No technology is perfect. And actually hindi naman ito problema ng technology. Just like with other technologies, ang problema dito kasi is yung mga tao or more specifically, yung paggamit natin sa technology. Okay? But having said that, I still think or I still believe that the advantages definitely weigh more than the disadvantages of blockchain. Another disadvantage is yung regulation. Okay, although hindi naman talaga siya disadvantage, again, at least for me. But many people have expressed concerns about government regulation over cryptocurrencies. Okay? Syempre kasi, alam nyo naman, if we are under governments, di ba? Our government dictates what we can do, what we cannot do. Di ba? We have laws to follow. Hindi po pwedeng kahit ano lang gawin natin. So, there are some concerns that governments could make it illegal to own cryptocurrencies or participate in blockchain networks. Okay, so again, hindi pa siya talaga literal na nangyayari ngayon or disadvantage, but it's a valid concern. Okay? Kasi nga, knowing the nature of governments, di ba? Knowing that we need to follow laws, eh, hindi natin alam kung ano yung, kung anong susunod na batas na ipapatupad ng ating mga mambabatas, di ba? They could make it illegal to own cryptocurrencies or not. Hindi natin alam. So, it's a valid concern pa rin. Now, let's discuss naman ano yung mga applications or saan bang mga lugar, bagay, pagkakataon pwede natin gamitin ang blockchain. Sa totoo lang, napakarami nito. Okay. Itong listahan na makikita nyo, na ipapakita namin sa inyo, this does not in any way cover all applications of blockchain. Okay, these are just some applications of blockchain. First, we have media, then record and identity management, banking and finance, supply chain and logistics management, education, healthcare, voting, real estate, and so much more. Let's start with media. Saan natin pwedeng, parang baka nagulat yung iba sa inyo, di ba? We were talking about finance, we were talking about computations, we were talking about cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, trading, and then biglang pumasok tong media. 'Di ba? Parang malayo ba? It might seem at first na parang ang layo-layo, 'di ba? Hindi natin magamit yung blockchain sa media. But analyze nyo. Observe how we consume media nowadays. Saan ba tayo kumukuha ng mga music natin, ng mga movies natin? 'Di ba? Ang madalas streaming na, 'di ba? We pay for it, and then the goods meaning the media, the music, the movies are delivered to us electronically na rin. 'Di ba? So, um, in that way pa lang, dun pa lang sa pagbibili natin ng media contents, pwede na nating i-apply dun yung ano yung blockchain. 'Di ba? We can, ngayon hindi na lang necessarily sa iisa ulit yung nagko-control nung iisa lang yung media source natin, 'di ba? So, anybody in the network can, be a part of the delivery and consumption of media. Next, record and identity management. Okay? If you have ever spent daw your time in the local registry office, pwedeng sa ano yan, pwedeng sa munisipyo, sa city hall, yung mga ganon, sa NSO, sa PSA, yung mga ganyan. For sure. You know na sobrang hassle, 'di ba? Sobrang tagal at matrabaho nung proseso nung record and identity management. So, kasi although electronic na, usually yung mga systems natin, may mga computerized na, marami pa rin na gumagamit ng physical papers, 'di ba? Physical records. And yung process yung overall process din na parang traditional din kasi. Parang kinonvert lang into electronic yung mga records, but the process is, basically remains unchanged. So, mabagal talaga matrabaho. Ngayon, imagine na i-apply natin yung blockchain technology sa record and identity management. Okay? So, since mahirap ngang i-dispute or mahirap i-tamper rather, sorry. Mahirap i-tamper yung mga block or near impossible i-tamper yung mga data na nasa block natin. Okay? Hindi na kailangan ng yung sobrang trabaho at sobrang tagal ng verification process. Kahit pa sabihin natin medyo matagal pa rin. Actually, isa nga sa disadvantage ng blockchain, di ba? Na medyo mabagal kasi nga marami yung kailangang mag-verify. Relative yun eh. Relative yung speed na yon. Kung i-compare natin siya sa hirap at tagal ng current system natin for record and identity management ngayon, sobrang mapapadali niya pa rin yung, yung proseso nga. And yung mismong integrity ng data natin. Kasama sa makakapagpabilis nun is yung integrity nga kasi hindi na natin siya kailangang questionin pa, i-dispute pa yung validity ng ating mga documents, ng ating mga records. Kasi nga, it's from the blockchain. And we know na na-verify na siya ng napakaraming computers, di ba? Ang dami ng calculations na pinagdaanan niyan, computations, to prove, to verify na tama at walang problema dun sa ibinabalik sa ating records. Okay? Next, of course, banking and finance. Okay, so by integrating blockchain DAO into banks, consumer can see their transactions processed in as little as 10 minutes. Okay, so like I've said, yung sinasabi ko kaninang disadvantage na sa speed, that's relative. Okay, hindi naman pag sinabing mabagal, talagang super bagal. I-compare mo yan sa mga current systems natin ngayon, super bilis pa rin, super mapapabilis niya pa rin yung mga transactions, yung mga processes, etc. Okay? And aside from the speed din, yung mapapabilis niya, magkakaroon din yung mga bangko at iba pang financial institutions ng opportunity to exchange funds ng mas mabilis at mas secure. Okay? For example, sa stock trading business, okay, yung settlement and clearing process can take up to 3 days or even longer kung international yan, di ba? And anong disadvantage or anong negative effect nung mahaba or matagal na proseso na yon? Syempre, during that time, 'di ba, na pinaprocess pa siya, yung pera ay frozen, yung mga assets frozen, 'di ba? So, useless 'yun, frozen nga eh. Hindi siya nagagamit, hindi siya lumalaki. So, kung mapapabilis 'yun, mas mabilis din siyang pwedeng palaguin, 'di ba? So, that's one possible use of blockchain. Another is supply chain and logistics management. Okay? So, uh, isang concrete example sa IBM Food Trust, yung mga suppliers ginagamit daw nila yung blockchain to record the origins of materials that they have purchased. Okay? So, ibig sabihin ito, yung mga companies, pwede na nila ngayong i-verify yung authenticity ng kanilang product. Kasi nga, recorded ng securely din, ensure kang tamper-proof yung origin ng material mo. And, kasama nun, you can also label your products as organic, local, or fair trade. Next, education. Okay? Sa education, isa talaga sa pinaka-critical dyan is yung records, of course. Student records. Bukod sa napakarami, syempre sensitive information din to, di ba? It cannot be handled ng kung papaanong paraan lang, di ba? It should be handled with the utmost care. And tuloy-tuloy to. Hindi natatapos din yung managing nitong mga student records. Kasi napakarami, all throughout the whole semester, actually bago pala magsimula ang semester, di ba? During the enrollment. During the school year na talaga, the actual school year, habang ginagawa nyo yung mga courses nyo or habang tinatapos pala, kinukomplete nyo yung mga courses nyo, yung mga grades nyo, 'di ba? Yung mga payments nyo, yung mga and all your other records. Continuous yan na nadadagdagan, na-update. Even diploma can become part of your personal blockchain record. Okay? Now, since that these records cannot be deleted, 'di ba po? If you will recall, once nasa record mo na po 'yon, hindi na 'yon pwedeng tanggalin eh. 'Di ba? Nagkaroon ka ng failing grade. Even if you retake the subject, yung failing grade mo naka-record pa rin. You have an incomplete mark, 'di ba? Kahit na kumpleto mo na yung subject na 'yon, yung incomplete mark na 'yon is still in your record. O recall yung isang karakteristik ng blockchain, yung immutability ng mga records, 'di ba? So, yung characteristic na 'yon, it really fits yung pangangailangan natin for student records. Okay? Plus, isa pang parang additional advantage ng paggamit ng blockchain sa student records is that yung record na 'yon also belongs to the student, hindi lang sa school. Tama ba? That could also be one of parang hassle or hindi maganda sa current system natin, di ba? Student record is managed supposedly by the school. Pero ang nangyayari, hindi lang nila minamanage. They actually own the record. Kasi tayo, kailan ba tayo nagkaka-access lang dun sa mga records na yon? Di ba, usually, kailangan pa nating i-request sa kanila, may payment pa yun, may proseso pa yun, mahaba din, magastos din. Diba? But with blockchain, so lahat ng advantages na diniscuss natin kanina, lahat ng advantages ng blockchain technology would apply sa student records natin. Next, healthcare. So sa healthcare din, pwedeng i-apply ang blockchain. Diba? Kasi parang sa student records yan eh. Sobrang dami din dito ng minamanage na data na records. Okay? And very critical din to, 'di ba? Hindi pwedeng may matamper na information or data dito. Buhay kasi ang nakasalalay dito, 'di ba? So, the security that a blockchain can provide with medical records would really improve the healthcare system. Plus, yung bilis nga, 'di ba? Yung bilis din na dinadagdag niya or rather yung bilis ng proseso, 'di ba? That's another advantage na maiko-contribute ng blockchain sa healthcare. And again, yung immutability. Hindi rin pwedeng mabago ang medical records, 'di ba? So, once it's recorded sa blockchain, hindi mawawala yan. So, anytime, kahit sa future, kahit gaano pa kalayo sa future, pag tinignan yung medical history mo, yung medical record mo, you will be confident na andun pa rin yun. Hindi mawawala yun. So, valid pa rin at accurate yung medical history. Next is voting. So, at first, voting might seem out of place sa mga applications ng blockchain. But it actually makes sense. Kasi kung babalikan nyo yung mga diniscuss nating applications kanina, it mainly falls into two categories eh. Yung una is yung sa finance, yung sa payments, mga ganon. And then second falls under record keeping. Okay? So voting is basically record management din, di ba? We need to keep track and monitor yung mga votes, di ba, ng mga voter. So, blockchain, we can use blockchain to potentially eliminate election fraud. Di ba? Kasi, let's look at how voting fraud or election fraud happens. Kung sa traditional yan, yung paper ballot, 'di ba? Tapos manually ang bilangan. Talagang very prone siya sa pandaraya or kung hindi man sa pandaraya, sa mga human errors or mistakes, 'Di ba? Kasi as you count manually, o pwede mong baguhin eh, yung kino-call out na mga pangalan, 'di ba? Or hindi mo man sadyain, sabi ko nga, human error always um, plays a role in this type of processes. So, maaring hindi mo sinasadya, nagkamali ka ng binanggit na pangalan, or tama yung binanggit na pangalan, nagkamali ng nilagyan ng record. And ilan lang yung nagve-verify nung ano na yon, nung nung mga records na yon. Yung mga watchers, 'di ba? Iilan lang sila. And then after sa watchers, aakyat sa COMELEC, 'di ba? Another limitation or disadvantage sa manual voting is that hindi talaga nakikita na although meron tayong watchers, although meron tayong COMELEC, yung, yung mga tao talaga, yung mga botante talaga, as in sana, di ba, personally, we have the chance, we have the right, the opportunity to verify ourselves talaga na na-count yung boto natin. But with the current system and the manual system dati, wala tayong way na ganun eh. To verify talaga, tayo talaga personally, to verify that our vote was counted. Pero imagine blockchain being applied in voting. Remember, sa blockchain, hindi lang iisa ang may-ari nung network, nung blockchain, at nung lahat ng data na nandun sa network. 'Di ba? Kung tayo, botante, ibig sabihin tayo din pag-aari natin yung data na mai-store dun sa blockchain natin for voting. So, tayo mismo kasama sa mga magve-verify, 'di ba? Na, nabilang nga yung ating boto. Tayo kasama rin mismo sa magve-verify na tama yung in-announce na resulta ng election. Okay? Na walang pandarayang nagawa. And hindi lang sa verification, yung mismong pandaraya, magiging super hirap na. Kasi nga, di ba, yung mga diniscuss natin kanina sa blockchain, sabi natin, hash. Sa hash pa lang, mahirap na yon. Idagdag mo pa yung proof of work. Di ba? Ang daing botante. So, milyon yung magiging blocks natin, 'di ba? Imagine doing the proof of work for millions of blocks para lang matamper mo yung result ng isang voting. So, napakahirap nun, if not impossible pa nga talaga. So, imagine, 'di ba? Imagine if magagamit talaga natin yung blockchain for voting. We can also use blockchain for real estate. Again, for buying, primarily for buying and selling. Parang kagaya din kanina sa media and sa sa trade. But aside from that, 'di ba? Blockchain also offers new ways for buyers and sellers to connect with one another. Kasi nga bumabalik na naman tayo dun sa peer-to-peer network eh. Dati kasi nga laging centralized lang sa iisa. So, if you want to interact with a certain uh, group of people, kailangan nandito ka, pumunta ka sa isang institution, sa isang company, sa isang organization, doon lang kayo pwede mag-interact. But with the introduction of blockchain, if we use blockchain, it will provide us with new means or ways to interact with each other at to connect with each other. 'Di ba? Mababawasan na yung mga intermediaries or yung mga third parties. We can go directly or we can connect directly to the seller, halimbawa, ng real estate, 'di ba? Or to the buyers kung tayo naman yung seller. Again, reduce yung cost kasi nga bawas na yung mga komisyon para sa mga third party or sa mga intermediaries, 'di ba? And yung ownership din ng real estate, we can apply blockchain doon, 'di ba? And alam din naman natin that real estate could be transferred. Diba? So magkakaroon din yan ng chain of ownership, possibly. And blockchain would be a really good technology to use for that. And that's it. If you will recall, kanina we had a warm-up question. What is a blockchain? I'm sure, at least kung nakinig kayo talaga or nanood, I'm sure nasagot na yung tanong na to, okay? Dapat alam nyo na yung sagot dito sa tanong na to. Ulitin natin ha. Tingnan natin kung kayo talaga ay nakinig at nanood. Again, the question is, what is blockchain? A is referred to as a digital ledger. Is it B, a time-stamped series of immutable records of data that is managed by a cluster of computers not owned by any single entity? Is it C, a system of recording information in a way that makes it difficult or impossible to change, hack, or cheat the system? Or D, all of the above? Once again, share your answer in the comment section or the message or the chat box. And the answer is all of the above. Okay? Na-discuss natin tong paulit-ulit. Actually, these are actually related to each other. Okay, blockchain is also referred to as digital ledger. It's time-stamped series of immutable records of data, and it's not owned by just one single entity. Okay, lahat ng nodes sa network, lahat ng users sa network, they all own the blockchain. They all manage the data dun sa blockchain natin. It's also a system of recording information in a way that makes it difficult or impossible to change, hack, or cheat the system. So blockchain is all of that. Now let me go back to the title of our presentation. If you still hasn't figured it out kung bakit ito yung title namin, you probably weren't listening. Well, naipakita na namin sa inyo kanina yung mga applications ng blockchain. You already know the characteristics and the level of security, the advantages of blockchain. And if you think about it, diba, blockchain could be applied, could be used for everything, or at least almost everything. It's like the internet. It's like the internet. It's a disruptive technology in a way that it changes things in a major way, diba? It changes how we do things in major ways for the better, of course, diba? Kasi when we say disruptive technology, it doesn't always mean negative naman eh. Actually, it could be positive, especially if we disrupt a system which is long overdue for a change. 'Di ba? Baka kailangan na talaga kasing baguhin yung sistema for the better, of course. So, again, blockchain, just look at the possibilities kung saang mga areas natin siya pwede i-apply and how improved the systems could be if we use blockchain. 'Di ba? So, that's it. It's not impossible. It's actually very probable na bukas makalawa, we wake up and just discover that blockchain is everywhere. Blockchain is in everything, almost everything that we do. And that's it for this presentation. Thank you, and we hope you've learned something.